There's been a bit of a tiff as of late between G2A and tinyBuild over PC game reselling, and it's getting rather ugly with accusations of blackmail and ultimatums flying around. Now, like the prefix before a soap opera, let's do a bit of a recap. As earlier this week, tinyBuild claimed that G2A, one of the more popular key reselling websites, sold nearly $500,000 worth of its games, and tinyBuild did not get a penny in return. Now, an email that was received by Eurogamer from the boss of Punch Club and Speedrunners publisher tinyBuild basically said that G2A had sold $450,000 worth of its games. Now, you've probably heard the various accusations, some of them pretty damn serious, regarding G2A, including credit card chargebacks, stolen keys bought in other countries and then sold to gamers in other countries, which you technically shouldn't do, all sorts of iffiness being accused and thrown around regarding G2A. Now, the boss of Punch Club, whose name I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce because I will just butcher it, described G2A's business model as quote-unquote fundamentally flawed and basically, quote, facilitates a black market economy. He basically said G2A they accused them of using a database of stolen credit cards to buy games in bulk from, say, a bundle or third-party key reseller, then putting them up on G2A to sell them at half the price that they're retailing for. Now, as I mentioned a moment ago, there's also the issue of chargebacks from credit card companies, which apparently obliterated tinyBuild's own online shop. Now, he said, quote, "I'd start seeing thousands of transactions and our payment provider would shut us down within days. Moments later, you see G2A being populated by cheap keys of games we had just sold on our shop." Now, after his complaints obviously spread across the internet, G2A hit back with a rather interesting request, or ultimatum, or whatever you want to call it: provide us with a list of suspicious keys within 3 days. They basically said, give us a key of the keys you think are stolen, give us a list, sorry, and basically these ones should be taken down from G2A Marketplace and then called the $450,000 figure into question, because tinyBuild referred only to the highest price point of its games arriving at the figure according to G2A. Now, tinyBuild has responded to G2A's response in a statement which they aptly called, "You have 3 days to fix this," basically. And he called G2A's statement aggressive and accused the company of trying to discredit tinyBuild. And went on to say, quote, "So now they're willing to help us with keys, but instead phrase in the same blackmail way, you have 3 days to send us keys to verify. Previously, we're not going to help unless you sign up to working with us." Now, basically, the guy is saying that he's not going to give G2A a list of keys that may or may not be stolen because it's going to create false positives, and perhaps you'll get people who bought keys that are actually legit getting penalised. And he said, quotes, "The way our business works is we work with a ton of partners, and tracking down individual key batches is an insane amount of work. Everyone knows their reputation, so would anyone even consider giving them a list of keys to quote-unquote verify? I believe they'd just resell those keys and make more money off of it. We're not really talking about solutions here, only symptoms, and the cause of everything is really that we're not verifying merchants, not acknowledging the scope of their problem, and blackmailing us into working with them, saying they'll only help us if we work with them." They then gave G2A their own ultimatum right back: provide a solution for developers and publishers to benefit from their marketplace. And he said, quote, "As everyone knows, there's currently no way for a company like ours to benefit from the marketplace without undercutting actual retailers. If we have solutions to set minimum pricing, getting revenue shares, and or flat out not allowing sales of our keys on the marketplace, the tides could turn into a positive direction for the industry as a whole." Now, G2A's request to have the keys verified does seem reasonable, but I don't understand the 3-day time limit, to be honest. That is not enough, given the amount of work that it probably would take to figure out what keys have made their way onto G2A and all of that good stuff, and then you probably want to get rid of any ones that came from a legitimate source for whatever reason. And that's an insane amount of work to undertake and then get it to G2A within 3 days. Doesn't seem reasonable. The request at its core is fairly reasonable. Obviously, tinyBuild disagree. And to be honest, this argument between the two of them is getting more and more bitter, and I can't really blame tinyBuild in a way because they've lost a lot of money from it, but it's just messy. I mean, to me, what would be more reasonable is if G2A gave them a list of the keys that they have, and then, the guys can say, "Oh, look, this one came from this place," or whatever. Or they're just going to work together to solve the problem rather than clashing against each other like they are now, but to be honest, I don't think that's ever going to happen. Now, I don't think he's really complaining about resold keys that were bought legitimately. That's perfectly, in the eyes of the law, legal to do that. I think more what developers don't like about G2A is the chargebacks. You are basically costing the developer money when that happens, because they're not making any money from the thing, and then they're getting that money taken away again, and you know, someone gets their game anyway, basically. So that's kind of the issue, I think, for most developers of GTA. GTA? G2A, excuse me. Now, obviously, with the keys that are on G2A, there's probably not all of them that are illegal. That's probably not going to be the case. It's probably going to be a small percentage of them. Obviously, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know the ins and outs of what happened between these two companies or anything to do with the keys or anything like that. But just thinking logically, it seems like we've probably got a small segment of these games that are illegally charged back or whatever, or bought in a way that they shouldn't really be sold, like bought from a really cheap from another country and then sold at a profit or whatever. But the rest of them are probably legit. I don't know. I've never used G2A myself. I stick to Green Man, and I stick to Steam, and I stick to Humble Bundle and GOG. That's literally it. So I've never used them as a service, so I can't really comment on that end, but it doesn't seem likely to me that literally every one of these keys is illegal. I could be wrong, of course. And to be fair, the 450,000 number that the tinyBuild gave G2A is if the games are all sold at retail full value. And there's a chance that a lot of them probably weren't as well. So there's more than meets the eye with this situation. It's hugely messy. Everyone's throwing food at each other. It's smeared all over the walls. You know, you're up to your knees in it. You're not going to be able to get any sense out of what's going on here until probably a judge steps in and be like, look, this is what needs to happen. So batten down the hatches, boys. It's getting messy. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you next time.